Reverend Frank Chikane. He is an emeritus pastor of the Apostolic Faith Mission of South Africa. He serves now as a moderator of the CCIA and has been a part of the efforts to deal with the conflicts and wars in the Middle East and other regions around the world. He played an important role in the anti-apartheid movement and later in the transition from apartheid to a democratic South Africa. Please, let's welcome Reverend Frank Chikane.
Given the amount of time that I've been given, and I'm one person who likes respecting time, I'm going to speak to this text and walk through slides which are critical. And so, like I used to do, during the struggle, because you were not sure whether your sermon will be completed before the police arrived. So you told the congregation what you were going to preach about and then disappear if things go bad. So I would like to thank the leadership of the Bethlehem Bible College for inviting me to be part of this Christ at the Checkpoint Conference. They've invited me before we couldn't come, and last time the pandemic intervened 2 years ago, and we couldn't do it. I'm pleased that we are here today. And I would like to also thank the leadership of the churches, communities, and human rights groups that are here, and also my fellow brothers who are with me, Reverend Mosentla and Reverend Molo, Mzwandile Molo, right at the end of the hall there. I would like to thank them for being together on this journey, which started on Tuesday, and we will be concluding it with you. And I would like to also thank all the international guests who are here, our sisters and brothers. Before I start, I would like to tell you what I'm going to do, and then we can try to do it here now. Firstly, we're going to define apartheid because we shouldn't take it for granted, especially because we are here in Palestine, Israel. It's of vital importance that we do so. And Reverend Dr. Muntha Isaac, if I get into trouble, just lay hands on me. And secondly, we're going to refer to the theological approach to what we do, because this is about our faith. It's not just a struggle. It's our faith. Then we're going to refer to the golden rule, which you would know about. But you know, when people say they don't believe in the scriptures, I tell them there's a golden rule. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenge to the church as church. And I just want to say, if I don't get time to speak about it, I would like to say lately, I don't know whether the colleagues I've met here have heard me saying it, but you know, Peter was the apostle to the Jews, and Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles. I think what we need now is an apostle to the churches, because the churches are the problem before God. That's the apostle we are looking for. So we'll refer to the challenges and then do the case of South Africa. So I'm not going to present a whole story about how we did it during the apartheid system, but just to give you a case and you can study it further. The Lord put in my heart this text that I chose to start with. And I say the blind side of the world, because dealing with the world, heads of governments, presidents, I am scared. I am scared that this world is led by people who should not be in leadership. I'm scared that these people are the ones who have to make decisions about our lives. We're victims of circumstances. When they make the decisions, the bombs drop, we all become victims. I've said to the leadership from the Church's Commission on International Affairs that the people of Ukraine are victims of the geopolitical struggles of the powerful. And the ordinary citizens become victims. And they don't care about the lives of the people, they care about their interests. And so I would like to start by saying, as Jesus approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, if you, even you, it means because you should know the truth, even you had only known in this day what would bring peace, bring you peace. But now it is hidden from your eyes. In January, we started a process to make sure Ukraine does not happen. But the leaders decided they want it in any way. And so if the world knew what makes for peace, we wouldn't be where we are. In defining apartheid, I just want to say I'm happy I've got my brothers and sisters, my brothers here. I don't need, when you are a South African, you don't need anyone to define apartheid for you. Yeah, when you hit it, you see this thing, it's apartheid. It doesn't, you don't miss it. And so when Ukraine started, I discovered something I had not realized, that the people who have nuclear weapons or are covered by nuclear weapons produce weapons to fight the wars in territories where they don't have them. And those of us who are excluded, we're not covered. We become victims of this trade of arms. Look at the arms that are going to Iraq, in Ukraine. And so when you see apartheid, you can see it. It's an apartheid between the powerful and the powerless. You can't miss it. You can see it. It's those with nuclear weapons and those who are covered by them. I suspect if we applied as South Africa to say, can we join NATO? I'm sure they will say no. You don't belong to that class. There's racism in it as well. You can read it, you can see it. You don't miss it. And this is extraordinary. Look at the journalist who died in Ukraine. That is murder, killing. And when Shireen dies here, it's like it's an accident. You just go and look at the language that is used by the same media, same countries. Look at the language. It tells you the story. And so if it is apartheid, it is apartheid. And on Israel, I just want to go past that because it's too controversial. I want to go past quickly. So I'm not murdered on this one. The point is that we've crisscrossed around. I've come a number of times here. We have gone into some places in the last 3 days. And you can't miss that what is here is many times more than what apartheid was. You say, I was detained under preventative detention. I was detained under the Terrorism Act. I haven't carried a gun in my life, but everybody who resisted apartheid was terrorist. I was tortured, in my experience. But here, it's different. We didn't have a military occupation. There's a difference between colonial rule and military. But if you are subjected to military for 55 years, that's a long, long time. And when people say to me, you are exaggerating the situation, I say, can we get some powerful force from Mars, come and occupy the United States and see how the people in the United States will behave? Just try it. You'll see hell will break loose. Just for a week, just occupation for a week, not too long. We don't want the pain to be for too long. And so we have come here. I just want to say this is clearly apartheid. In terms of defining it in terms of the Rome Statute, it is a crime against humanity committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over another. And when you deal with apartheid, I look for two things. It's institutionalized, it's systemic. It's not an accident, it's a design. And it is not only design, it is produced, it is meant to, it's committed with an intention of maintaining the regime, which means that pain is meant to produce the regime and maintain it. It is meant to reproduce oppression. In terms of the UN, in human acts committed for the purpose of establishing and maintaining domination by one racial group of persons over any other racial group of persons and systematically oppressing them. It's systemic. It's the permits, and I can't understand it. It's too complicated. South Africa was better. We had one pass with stamps in it. The same, but these ones are even different, And in Niger, in Sharpeville, 1960, South Africans decided they're going to go to a police station and drop those permits and passes in one place, produce a bonfire, and say, arrest us. We don't have them. And so it is quite clear, so I don't need to go through the, this is apartheid, Bethlehem, I've spelled it wrongly, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. I've read Amnesty International report. Please don't pass judgment here until you read that report. Once you have read it, you will know this thing is apartheid. In terms of the Sheikh Jarrah, I don't pronounce it correctly. Those are 48 refugees who were thrown out of Haifa and other places, Jerusalem, etc. They are now in Jerusalem, Eastern Jerusalem. There was Jordan there. Then the 67 happens, and then they are now exposed again because Jordan is gone. And then we ask them, why are they removing you here? They say, the settlers are claiming this land because they have history about it. So why don't you go and claim the land that was taken in 1948? And they say, no, the Palestinians can't use that law to claim that land. Only Israeli Jews can use it. It's a clear apartheid. You don't need to ask anybody about it. Once the law applies to one and not the other, then it is apartheid. By the way, it is apartheid internationally that the powerful don't sign the Rome statutes. The weak must sign them. Their soldiers are subjected to international criminal law. The soldiers of the powerful don't go there. It's clear injustice when we said they were asked to exempt the United States during Mandela's time. And then we said, no, we can't exempt you from Rome. If we sign the Rome Statute, you must also sign it. And then they said, no, we must be exempted. We said, no, we can't do it. They said, well, we're going to withdraw our support for the country. And those who remember that history, Madiba was not diplomat, he just came out of jail. He then said, let the United States take their money, it's peanuts. For him, it was like, why should you be different? We must be treated the same. If you have a world where the powerful get exempt from justice, and those who are weak must be subjected to justice, and if the prosecutor of the international court says, I'm going to prosecute or investigate Israel, then they get subjected to sanctions. Do you remember that? Go and Google it. You'll find it. You try to investigate the wrong people, you get sanctioned. And so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to say, if you don't believe in this, I just want to say the golden rule, do unto others as you would that they do unto you. Don't do anything that you don't want anybody to do to you. If you don't want to be occupied, don't occupy other people. It's as simple as that. It's biblical, it's straight. If you don't want to be tortured, don't torture other people. You can't be exempt from it. Then in terms of the theological side of it, I just want to say, for me, God is for all and in all. I hope I'm not confusing you. Go to the slide on God is for of all, and God is for justice. If you can go to that slide, I'll be pleased to do that. God is a God of the whole created reality, not a tribal God. One God I'm scared of is the tribal one, because the tribal God takes care of its tribe against others. But God, who's God of all, takes care of all. Even when I was in government and I had to make decisions about other countries, I had to say, are we doing to them what we would want them to do to us? If that's not the case, we shouldn't do it. This is a God of equality, King Martin Luther King. Indivisible justice, equal and indivisible. Even about NATO and Russia, it's about indivisible. I learned something because it was NATO and Russia for now. It was indivisible security. It means if you want security, you must secure the security of the other person. You can't have it. It's unbiblical to expect others to do to others what you don't want them to do to you. The God of justice is a God of love, God of the neighbor, God even of the enemy. And I want to deal with this issue about chosenness quickly, if you can go to chosenness so that we can deal with it. This is the first time I talk about this chosenness. Christ equalizes everything. Where Christ comes, equalizes. Christ broke the wall, the dividing wall between the warring parties, the Jews and the Gentiles, Actually, that's what Christ died for next door, across the wall there. Died because he was talking about uniting all people as one people, not different people who are going to fight with each other. But now in Christ Jesus, who once were far away have been brought near. Those of us who were far away and those who were near have come together with those who are close. You know that text in Ephesians. I don't have time to go through it. I just want to say for the church, and my time is going to be again against me. For the church, the early church tried its best to be church. The early church was a persecuted church. I've gone very fast into the next slot. Persecuted church, I call it the church on the run. It was on the run. But God produced blessings out of it and made sure that it reaches more people as it goes on the run. In the context of minority, the church tends to develop a survival theology. And in a case where empires ruled, like in this place, where they occupied one after another occupation, they tend to develop a theology that addresses that reality. If you could go faster to the issue about the church on the run, please. Go to the church on the run. The previous one. Yeah. And the next is that it is a minority, it's survival theology, and then doing theology or ministering in a context of an empire is different from doing theology in our situation. Then came Constantine, came the transatlantic slave trade, and I'm moving fast, and the colonial system. And then we end up with a church that conforms to the world. And I would like you to go to that text because it's of vital importance. Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I am convinced that the church learned through Constantine period colonization to actually be a conforming church, which becomes like the world rather than become different from the world. I think our slides are not corresponding, so it's fine. That's okay. Just hold it there, don't move. I will tell you when to move. And so I just want to say the missionaries came, but they were just children of their time. And most of them reproduced what they were carrying with them from where they came from. But they were very unique missionaries. And I don't have time to go through it. But this particular missionary, Trevor Huddleston, whom I have chosen to quote at length, and I would like you to move to the next slide. Trevor Huddleston was a missionary who realized the contradictions in South Africa and said, the acts and motives of the apartheid government are inspired by a desire which is itself fundamentally evil and basically unchristian. And that was in 1956. And you can read the book, Not for Your Comfort. And he was thrown out, his church withdrew him from South Africa because of that challenge that they were facing. If you go to the next slide so that we can complete, he says, the desire to dominate in order to preserve a position of racial superiority, and in that process of domination to destroy personal relationships, the foundation of love itself, that is Antichrist. When you break the relationships, then you are contrary to what Christ is about. And so there were missionaries who stood for the truth, who were able to stand in the face of the challenges. And so you can go quickly, the church clause, it's the clause that was saying you can't go to this church or go to that church. Let's go to the next. I want to go very fast now. And then, of course, Sharpeville massacre changed the scene in South Africa. 69 people died simply going to deliver the pass books and the permits to say we're not going to be controlled by this. Then the churches were forced to have a message to the people of South Africa, if you can go on faster. And then when the church woke up, the World Council came to the picture. And then they constituted a program called Program to Combat Racism. And that nearly divided the WCC into splinters because there could be no agreements amongst others until they settled with it, because for us it was apartheid that was working against our own humanity. I would like to rush because I don't have time now. I won't go through that. It's conscientious objection. It's those white soldiers, young people, who refused to be conscripted and said, we're not going to defend apartheid. And they went to jail, a number of them. And then the turnaround was in the 80s when we declared racism a sin and the theological justification thereof a heresy. And that was the World Alliance of Reformed Churches in Ottawa when that was declared. Then we went further and said, the apartheid system, go back again. The apartheid system is an illegitimate, if you go back, it's an illegitimate system. It was a process. I can see that the system is not moving fast, yeah. It was a system we had to declare illegitimate, and once you declare it illegitimate, the church, I remember Desmond Tutu saying, we must remove this apartheid system. Now, you know, saying remove, you might be charged for treason if you use that language. And so we reached a stage where the system was delegitimized. That's critical. As long as if people legitimize an evil system, it will continue forever. Now, we met with some of our Jewish communities, representatives, whilst we were here these 3 days. We wanted to hear from them. And I'm pleased one of them said, continuing the occupation risks the future of Israel itself. The best way to protect the interests of Israel is to end the occupation and live together in peace. If you don't know that it is possible, no one thought in South Africa would live together, whites and blacks together. Who would have thought about it in 1988? No one believed it. And no white person, the day we finished our elections, I was crossing my fingers to say, I hope no white person get killed that night when the celebration happened. And no single white person has been killed after we declared a democracy. I am convinced, having walked around, that if Israel and Palestine lived together in peace where they are equal before the law, then there will be no conflict. And I don't think there's a shorter way of doing this. And so I just want to conclude so that I don't go beyond the limit. Conclude that at the end, we had a Kairos document, which you know about. And that Kairos document has become a reference document for many places in the world. And it categorized the church in three ways. There is a church which is state theology. They only support the state irrespective of whatever happens. And church theology, they make statements and do nothing. And people continue being oppressed. Prophetic theology takes a stand and participates in making sure that the system is removed. And it challenges us to action. And I would like to say that having been here, we are challenged to get into action to make sure that these lovely people, I mean, as they were dancing, who have no right whatsoever, can have rights tomorrow. It should be our commitment, it should be our determination. And as we go back to our countries, we should go back and face our leaders and say, you have a key to the solution. I don't know whether I can quote the patriarch here. We met the patriarch because they are really, though they are losing their rights religiously, the protocols are being violated, the right wing and, groups, they call them radicals, are violating that place. The patriarch is not a political person. And he said to us, if the United States decided tomorrow this thing should stop, it will stop. Thank you.